Yes.
Yes, it did. We are now recording.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks.
Okay. I guess we can start. I'll be your interim chair today as agreed at the last meeting. Christine will do the next regular meeting on November, what was it, the 18th, I believe. So this is an extraordinary meeting today. We'll dispense with regular business as per agenda order. I will quickly read the acknowledgement before we start here. So we'd like to begin by acknowledging and honoring with gratitude that the land on which we gather is the individual territory of First Nation elders and peoples who have lived and continue to live here and have cared for these lands. Quick welcome to Julia Chadwick from the Seniors Association. Thanks, Julia, for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if Ian Taylor is here as well from the seniors. I'm not seeing him on the list. So, okay. So it's you, Julia. Thank you. And for the rest, Julia, are you familiar with everybody that's on the list? Can you see everybody?
Yes, I can. And okay. Yes, I am.
Okay. So we'll dispense with introductions then. You're the only new one. So thanks for coming. All right. So we do have to adopt the agenda. I think everybody has had a chance to look at the agenda, I hope. Chris mailed it out to you. I had a request for one late item from Mr. Pratt. And so, Chris, you got that email too. Did you add that or are we gonna add it right now?
I can share my screen, Chair. Is that okay, and show the agenda?
Sure.
I have got his request there. I hope it shares. Let's see.
Okay, perfect.
Can you see the agenda, Share?
Not right now. We can't see it.
Okay, you know what? Then hang on 1 second. I'll try it again.
I think you have to allow screen sharing for that.
Yeah, well, I share.
There we go. We've got it.
It's not the right document, is it?
Yes, it is.
Is it the agenda?
There it is.
It's
Yes.
the agenda, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
See,
and I see that you have noted under item 6, late items, that Darren's request is there as a late item. So Mr. Pratt will also be updating everybody on the progress at Hardyview. Given that, we need someone to adopt the agenda, please.
Mr. Chair, if I may, that was not my request.
Oh,
it was
okay.
a discussion around the Hardyview Shelter project. I wasn't here to give an update on it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misinterpreted that. So just discussion on Hardyview?
Yeah, I have a request to the table members to make, so.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Darren. Done. All right, are there any other omissions, additions that we need to look at here for the agenda? Okay, hearing none then, would someone please move to adopt the agenda, please? Darren? And I'm not seeing everybody on my screen because it's splitting between. So if you've got a hand up, maybe just say something if you'd like to second it, please.
Okay, my hand is up and this is Kathy.
Okay, Kathy seconding, so we've got an agenda. All right, so we're going to dispense with regular agenda items. We're going to move straight to new business. And that, as promised, will be a briefing from Mr. Pratt, a document prepared by Darren and Teresa at FIS regarding a conversation around campus of care. So Darren, I'll turn that over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last regular meeting of the SAG, I was asked if I would be willing to do just a quick 2-3 pager briefing note on kind of what a campus of care model looks like. And my colleague Teresa Taylor joined me, kind of doing some final proofreading and some good revisions to kind of make it a little more clear, just around kind of some historical models and what the potential is. This kind of dovetails with the discussion that was brought forward by SAG 18 months ago in regards to a model down in Texas that was a faith-based model that was located within a community in Southwest Texas. So the long and the short of it is a campus of care has historically been used for a senior setting. So that kind of allows people that are seniors that can live independently, semi-independently, or need full supports. That model's been used in San Petrignano in Italy and also at Baldy Hughes in northern BC. And it's what we refer to as a wraparound model, where people, depending on where they're at in their progression through their time of healing, can access service to meet their needs. And the foundational piece to that is always housing. It doesn't matter what that is, whether it's a senior service or for mental health issues, it really does come down to housing as being that first pillar. And that's that move towards a housing first model that began in Canada in 2014. That was adopted from the New York model of housing first. One of the things that's a footnote in that briefing note that I'd really like to make clear is, from a clinical standpoint, addiction is mental health. So when people use the phrase mental health and addiction like somehow they're two different things, they're not. It's a medically recognized disorder, it's treated as such, and it's diagnosable as such. So not to parse language, but we as a table have heard it time and again that we support people that are mentally ill, but we don't want to support those addicts and those junkies. And that's really not doing a service to the clientele or to the medical profession that helps oversee their care plan. So within that campus of care model, housing is that first pillar, and then it moves through a place of good assessment and a continuum of care. Everything up to and including opioid agonist therapy, which is, things like having an old guy moment here, Suboxone or methadone, clinical supports, medication, all those other things. So it's a comprehensive model that meets all of those touchstones. Not one pillar can stand alone. The problem becomes with a model like this is it's incredibly costly. And in a province like ours, where there's multiple ministries with mandates, getting those multiple ministries to come together to commit to funding and resources is really difficult. There's a bit of an illusion in our province that the Ministry of Mental Health and Addiction has oversight. They don't. They're actually an incredibly small ministry that provides guidance. They don't provide frontline service. So frontline service for adults are provided by health authorities, and provision of service to children and youth is provided by MCFD and health authority co-jointly. So if we're looking at this model, we have to be very aware as a community that this isn't a BC housing project. This isn't an IH project. This isn't a specific ministry project. This would be very novel in as much as you would have to get everybody at the table to play nice together to understand the roles and responsibilities and to provide ongoing funding. What we see in the field of mental health is it's flavor of the month. We will fund this because this is the current ongoing hot button issue. Longevity of funding, we have seen historically reductions in funding for youth addictions beds. I think at this point we're down to 40 open full-time addictions beds for youth in the province of BC. When I began my career, it was 4 times that number. I think within the adult mental health system, we've seen a reduction as well of ongoing long-term care beds. So there is this potential to create a new model within our community to meet this need. But I just want to caution the table that while on paper it looks, why can't we do this? This is pretty easy. You get a group of professionals in a location, have them provide a continuum of service and housing, and everybody gets better. And it's not that easy. So I'm operating under the assumption that everybody was able to actually read the briefing note that we provided in advance, and that I'm just providing a very broad overview. Does anybody have any questions for Teresa or myself or Ali or any of the other folks on the call? Councillor Thompson?
Unmute me. A couple of questions. When we discussed this at the council meeting, one of our members was of the understanding that the Prince George model was for men only.
It is.
Would the model that you're proposing be co-ed?
I'm not proposing a model. I was asked to do a description of what a campus of care is.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
All right. So then I misunderstood your role on that one. Because I also thought that, and I'm not sure why I thought this, that when the temporary use permit was put out there, and I thought it was Bounty Family Services, but perhaps it was BC Housing, that was going to communicate with the residents in the community to give them assurance on how such a, this shelter would be run.
I don't think we're discussing the shelter right now, Councillor Thompson. I think we're discussing the campus of care.
Okay, so I'm confusing the two things, and for that I apologize. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to interject at this point. I'd like to dedicate this part of the meeting strictly to questions for Darren regarding the outline he's presented. I want to stay away from debate. However, what I'd like to remind the meeting of is that as we get through the question and answer portion here, that's not to say that the table cannot entertain a motion specific to what Darren is talking about. Maybe someone's got an idea. Maybe someone wants to put something on the table. At that point, we can discuss and debate the motion specifically. So, but at this point, just questions for Darren, please, and that's it. And I don't have everybody on screen, so just say something if you want to speak, because I'm just trying to figure this out, how to see everybody.
Chair, Chair Ann has a question.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like a question. asked.
Ann Thompson?
Nope, me.
Oh,
Or sorry, Palmer. I'm getting my hands mixed up.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so I guess I'm coming at this from community-minded stuff, okay? What you have is you have a scenario where the number of people that I talk to all feel that there must be some way to make this better. And all my conversations with Jan and others have been that this campus of care could make things better. So far, our government seems to feel that the only thing that's going to make it better is having housing first. Now, I recognize you need housing first, but it's fairly apparent from everything that they're doing in BC that housing first and only is not working. So I guess my question to you, Darren, is how can our community work with this campus of care and get the backing from all these other different groups to help us get this moving forward and working, and maybe prove that this is the way to go rather than just housing first?
The logic model in my mind is historically, you would have to have buy-in from the city and the RDKB. I think that you start at that local government level to then begin that process of having that conversation that we as a community and as a region are willing to attempt this model. This is a novel model. And then it becomes the trip to Victoria to really justify and to do the cost breakdown. And it's pretty easy to do because our partners in health and policing are very open about what the cost is. On a daily and a monthly perspective for communities of our size, having this entrenched population takes up resources in a large way. So we can prove that downstream funding model making sense. But everybody's in a holding pattern right now pending the final vote count for this recent provincial election. I think once that election count is complete and if there is a majority NDP government, I think we'll see some very clear working papers from them about what their visions are around expectations for service delivery. And I think it is time to have those conversations with multiple ministries about, yeah, we as a region, because it will have to be a regional initiative. And that we as a region, with Grand Forks being the hub, are prepared to take a chance and do this.
Any more questions for Darren?
Chair, I have one.
Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Darren, how do you see this campus of care model different from what is being offered in the supportive housing model by BC Housing?
The supportive housing model that we have seen provincially is not as robust in its service delivery. Again, just because it's always dependent on how much partnership each health authority is prepared to do. So in some instances of supported housing in northern region, there seems to be a little more buy-in from Northern Health. There's always this piece of, in smaller communities, because a lot of funding is population based. They don't take into account regional statistics of poverty, of all of those other things. So if you have X amount of people in your region, that's what you're funded on. So trying to get, let's just use public health as an example. Trying to get 2 public health nurses who are responsible from Christina Lake to Big White to do drop-in at a center such as a safe stay shelter are incredibly difficult because you have 2 nurses spread out across the entire area. And until the ministry would be willing to commit to that, you're not. So the BC housing model for supported housing is limited supports because they are the sole funder. So they pay for staffing, they pay to keep the lights on, but it's not a robust wraparound care model because that's not the purpose of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ann Palmer?
Just one more. I guess I'm just curious as to what you think our chances of success are. Or do you think, Darren, that we could pull this off in our community and make a go of it?
What's your metric of success?
Actually having a campus of care with the supports required.
I think that it would be a long, arduous battle. I think, again, the argument can be made that we know what's not working. You've pointed that out. So the argument can be made, if this is not working, give us an opportunity to try a novel approach. Give us 3 years, see if it works or not. I think.
So realistically, maybe 3 to 5 years is not an unrealistic look at it.
I think you need 3 years of operation to prove proof of concept. Baldy Hughes, when it began, men could be there for up to 3 years. That was the arc of that program. San Patrignano, I believe, is up to 10 years. So we know from contextual history, 30-day treatment programs are highly ineffective, especially in the day of opioids. A lot of our treatment modalities are based on 1980s issues. There's very few treatment modalities that are addressing current drug use patterns and the drugs that we now have.
Thank you, Darren.
All right.
Here, can I just interject? I want the meeting to welcome 3 latecomers. And I apologize to those people because I'm supposed to be taking minutes and watching the waiting room. And anyhow, they're in now.
Welcome, everyone. I see Janice and Brian. Who's the third?
Well, there's
Tammy
Tammy,
Battersby.
Oh, hi, Tammy.
but I don't know who the phone call is.
The phone call is Tammy Battersby as well.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. So Ann, that answers your question. Anyone else with a question for Darren?
Tammy does. Just wondering if we can have a brief update on what's been covered. I have been here since the beginning of the meeting, just not added.
Okay, Tammy, what we've got is basically Darren has spoken to the document that he sent everybody that gives kind of an outline of what the campus of care is. And so we've just entered a conversation on it where Darren is taking questions right now regarding that model.
Great, thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, Teresa, did you have anything that you wanted to kind of add? Because you were a co-author on this one. Was there anything that I kind of missed in any of this?
Well, just in regards to Ann's question about the difference between, or was it Chris's question about I think it was Chris, about supportive housing versus campus of care. Just that we've got the opportunity for a single site, which allows for sort of a triage of participants that are coming through an assessment of needs. And I think in some other communities, what you have are a variety of services that we would be offering, but they're spread across the community and they require some coordination across a wider area, where we were sort of looking at co-housing and having that be in one centralized space.
John, just a question, if I may.
Yeah, Christine, go ahead.
Can this document be shared publicly?
I think what we need, Christine, I was going to address some of that with the points of order later in the meeting. We could discuss that there, but we need to proceed with an abundance of caution here, because what I'm perceiving that we've got here is an idea, and it's a very, cursory outline. There's not a lot of detail, and I think what's required from the table is As I mentioned earlier in the meeting, once we get through questions here and people feel informed as to what the idea is, if somebody felt disposed to put a motion on the table to proceed with the idea in one way or another, you know, I don't want to coach too much here. If somebody feels inspired to put a motion on the table, we can debate that motion and see where we end up as a group. The way I read this is that we've had Boundary Family Services act on a request to provide an outline on what such a model looks like. We've got a long ways to go before we, as a committee, endorse it and suggest that we move further and forward on it. So,
Okay.
does that work for you?
Yes, it does. I'm very supportive of the concept, and I guess I'm just anxious to get it out there so that people are not doing their own research, coming to their own conclusions of what we're trying to do here in Grand Forks. But I'll back off and wait until we've had a debate and a discussion, and I'll just sit on my excitement.
Okay, thanks, Christine. Any further questions, Chris?
Harry, yeah, I have further questions. You know, the campus of care and MAR services on one site. The way I'm seeing us, and it's just my perception, is that we have three distinct needs in terms of services. We have the need for an extreme weather shelter. We have a need for supportive housing, and we have need for a designated camping area. So my question is to Darren and Teresa. Do you think that a campus of care model could be developed to address all three of those needs?
Can I just add into there that there's also the opportunity for like a secondary stage, more independent style living arrangement. So that's something that could be included as well.
I think Chris's question was specific though to three immediate concerns that he had. So do either of you see an opportunity within the model to accommodate those three items?
I think that, as Darren had mentioned previously, that what we're looking for at this point is support from our local government, and that I think that if we can show that the community is behind something, then we can push forward with that momentum that we have the community support.
Thanks.
I would also caution Councillor Moslin, and we know that being the catch-all be-all without specificity doesn't always work. So no, I don't think a campsite would be appropriate on a campus of care model.
Oh, okay.
I think that you would want that ability to have people who are ready to transition into some form of creating their own wellness plan to begin that path to wellness. I think that if you have people who their hang up in approaching that path to wellness is their independence of living rough, then you have that discussion with what would it take for them to feel comfortable moving into a supported housing facility? What underlying mental health issues keep them from feeling safe and secure in a facility like that? I think wanting this to be a multi-purpose tool is the wrong approach.
Thanks for your question, Chris and Palmer.
I just drove by there the other day. I haven't been there for probably 10, 12 years anyhow. And we took a drive by yesterday and went around the back and everything. And I thought if you had the need, you could probably put 4 trailers, whatever, in the back there. And there's still room where the gazebo is that you could have your veggie gardens and whatever else you need in that area. I understand what you're saying, Darren. I'm just thinking I keep running back to Moto and thinking that that's still a huge hazard for fire. And if there's some way we could get those 4 remaining trailers out of there, that would be a good thing.
Again, there's this piece of having this be seen as a coercive gateway for the city to clean up its mess is not the purpose of this. That I do not want to see this as being the hammer that the city gets to use for justification for removal of trailers that they can't deal with. That's not the purpose of this. I have no desire to participate in that. This is a specific model for a specific purpose to ensure that people get the tools they need on a path to wellness. If the city chooses to figure out designated camping, get after it. But this is not the appropriate location. Now, I do like your idea of tiny houses at the back. My team, when we looked at that property initially, especially along the gateway by the helipad, you bet, and that's that piece that Teresa talked about, are you ready to live semi-independently? Do you have the skill sets to now grocery shop on your own, to cook your own meals, and to have 5 tiny homes on the back for that next stage in preparation for market housing? You bet. That makes perfect sense. I'm not running a campground.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to say that I think it's important to note that in these situations where we're looking at things like, you know, tent cities and other sort of makeshift communities, that's an absence of something else. So I think that that's important to keep in mind, that these places are sort of cropping up where there aren't other options that fit the populace.
Okay, I see Christine Thompson.
Yes, thank you. I hear what Darren and Teresa are saying, and I think I'm one that's been guilty of trying to mesh everything all together in one resolution to everything, and that's not going to work. But I do like the campus of care model. I do think, and I would like to see the public being made aware of what this is and what could happen at the appropriate time. But there isn't one end-all be-all solution to all of the issues that we have. And I think if we work through one at a time, we'll probably have more success.
Any further questions? Juliana?
Yeah, and Chair, can I also, Beverly McCormick had her digital hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bev. Okay. Well, can we go ahead with Beverly then, and then we'll move to Juliana, please?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to clarify that from what I'm seeing there, I'm just reading, am I just on the wrong page here? Are all the services that you're mentioning, I mean, being envisioned to be available on the property, like medical, therapy, intervention, educational, work skill opportunities, or are you talking more about having someone there to help people access that stuff from the community? Because I mean, I know how difficult it is to organize all those resources or to wrap around a person. Are you talking about that stuff being actually like a doctor there and all that stuff right at the site? Or because it seems like an amalgamation between housing and a treatment facility. I don't know. I mean, I've worked in support recovery, and only one place I ever worked where all that stuff was available on the property, and that was Boundary, or the Burnaby Center for Mental Health and Addiction. But I'm not clear.
That's exactly what it is, Bev. It's a comprehensive wraparound on site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bev. Thanks, Darren. Then we had Juliana.
Yeah, I don't know if this, I just went back and looked at the campus care model. What about transitioning back into the workforce? That's not mentioned at all. I don't know if that's something that you even want part of this particular document, but you know, talking about transitioning them to homes and you know, taking care of themselves. Getting back into the workforce and becoming viable members of the community is also something that maybe should be in here, or I don't know. I'm just looking at it from that point. I don't know. Is that reasonable, Darren, or?
I think that if you look at the briefing note, I think there was something mentioned in there about employment and skills building.
Okay, apologies. I just had a look through it and I didn't see it. So I'll read again.
Any further questions?
Chair,
Ms. Moslin?
I guess what I'm hearing is that the campus of care would be a sort of like the supportive housing that's being proposed with additional services provided to that population. How can I ask, the campus of care model, how many people do you see it servicing in its basically, so there's got a wraparound care. So, and I do hear Bev McCormick's concerns about, and the gaps in a small rural community about trying to provide that kind of coordination between ministries and that kind of personnel-rich delivery of services. So,
And I think I covered that in my preamble, Councillor Moslin.
okay. Thank you for that then.
Any further questions?
Tammy has a question. Hoping it isn't been covered already. Wondering what the plan is moving forward in terms of the neighbors and educating the neighbors on what services would look like there, space use, use of courtyard, etc. Because I see that as being a concern coming up.
And Tammy, that would be 2 years down the road.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Okay, what I'd like to suggest is that I think we've covered it. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Teresa, for giving this outline today. I think it satisfied what the committee was looking for. It's a conversation piece. I see as being a long ways away from anything concrete. That said, what I mentioned at the beginning of Darren's presentation was that I'll leave time open here, or there is time open at the moment, for any consideration of a motion. If anyone wants to put anything forward with regard to this concept, now's the time to put something on the table. Kathy Hutton?
Okay, I'd like to make the motion that we support the Hardyview Lodge location for a campus of care, and that the immediate need would be an early cold weather shelter.
Okay, we have the motion. Chris Moslin, how are you doing with it there?
Okay, basically Kathy's motion is two parts. Move that the Hardyview Lodge, I think if I got the word, can be considered as a location for the campus of care. I think that's one part of it, Chair. I think I've got it correct. And then Kathy said, also added the phrase, and help me out, Kathy, was appropriate, was a good location for a temporary shelter or whatever.
Yeah, and the campus of care we would support, and we'd like to see the beginning of it being the early or extreme weather shelter.
Okay, so Chris, we do have a two-part motion, which is not a great idea procedurally.
Can I help you?
We need a seconder for the motion as it stands. Would anyone like to second the motion?
Chair, I would like to basically, I think the meeting would be better served if we split the motion and deal with the two things separately, and move that the Hardyview Lodge, that the social services and advisory group consider the Hardyview Lodge as a location for the campus of care. Is that the intent of the first part of the motion, Kathy?
Well, Chris, that's what we were discussing, so I guess that is the proper thing for the motion.
Right,
We were discussing the campus of care.
that's right.
Okay, I want to lend some clarification here because my interpretation doesn't exactly concur with what I'm hearing. And I'd like Mr. Pratt or Teresa Taylor to clarify here. My impression was that we were receiving a briefing on what the concept of a campus of care looked like. What I did not hear was anything specific to location at this point in time. Could you clarify, Darren, please?
So the briefing note did allude to Hardyview being a location that would work just because of its current space and design. That's all it is just a, hey, here's a spot that would work. There are other spots in community that would probably be developable or modified to fit that model. But yeah, just because we know the building and that's location and proximity to hospital services, there's a potential there.
Okay, thank you for that clarification then. So would someone like to second the motion as it's presently worded, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we've got Christine Thompson seconding. Okay, that opens it up for debate. Chris, I'm going to ask you to read it one more time.
Chair, do you mind if I try sharing it?
Sure,
Can I've got it on a.
sure, that's fine.
document here.
Ian Taylor, was that a hand up?
I'm going to try to share it, Chair. 1 second. Can you see that? Does it
Yes.
show up as a move that
Yes, it's showing.
consider that the Hardyview Lodge be a suitable location for the campus of care? It's kind of, I don't think I quite got good wording, Chair, but if I'm quite willing to go with that, that's what I've got, unless somebody can correct me.
Do we want to consider it or do we want to recommend it?
Oh, well, you tell me. I'm quite happy as the scribe here, just to,
Chris, this is Kathy.
yes, please.
Said that moved that the Grand Forks Social Services Advisory Group supports
Thank you.
the Hardyview Lodge as a suitable location. Because you said we need the support of the city and the regional district.
Okay. Oh, that's fine by me. Okay, so does that look good then, Chair? No.
Yeah, I see it here, Chris. So, yeah, that pretty much paraphrases what Kathy had to say. So,
Okay.
okay, so technically that was an amendment, but Christine, does your second stand?
Yes, it does.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that opens it up for debate then.
And I'll stop the chair. I'll stop the share, Chair, if I can. That way you'll see you more screen, people on the screen.
Great, thank you. Okay, I see a hand up. Tammy, then Anne.
Yeah, I wondered if there would be value in further amending it to say a campus of care as presented by Boundary Family Individual Services Society.
Procedurally, we can handle this two ways. We can deal with the motion as it stands. We can vote on it, or we can propose a friendly amendment at this point, and then we would have to find a seconder for that amendment. So you would have to have an agreement from Kathy on that amendment.
Yeah, just wondering if there's any value in that, because campus of care could mean different things in different places. And not sure if that is needed or not.
Kathy,
I would be fine with that amendment.
okay, so we have a friendly amendment. We need a seconder for it.
I'll second it.
Okay, Christine is seconding, and so the reworded motion then, Chris, sorry.
Yeah, hang on, Chair. you know, I'm still trying to rub it up myself, Chair. So that was the intent of the friendly amendment, was it
I
not?
see it. Yeah. If I understood it correctly, that seems to sum it up. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, there's the motion, and again, debate on the motion, please. Ann Palmer, you're next.
Thank you. I just wondering, are we putting the cart before the horse? Have we actually all agreed that this is the focus and this is the direction that we all want to go in? Because I'm not sure if we have everybody on side or not. Is that what we are planning on doing?
Okay, anyone want to speak to Ann's question?
Well, I think, Ann, that actually has two questions. I think first is, does the table want to move in that direction? And secondly, do they feel Hardyview is the appropriate location for that move? So I really think it's a two-part question to that.
Okay, Juliana?
I have to strongly agree with Darren. That is definitely two questions there. I strongly support the campus of care model. Location-wise, I think you have to discuss that more. There's two. I couldn't support the motion as is without, because I support the campus of care model. The Hardyview Lodge should be considered as a possible location. I think that, like, that's my 2 cents on that. I think it is a two-parter. I think it is you need two motions there. That's my opinion.
Okay, well, you know, ultimately we will call the question and you can either vote in favor or against the motion. So any further debate on the motion as it stands?
Chair,
Yep.
I too, Chair, have real reservations about identifying a location at this time. I think it might be counterproductive. I do agree with the report that Hardyview Lodge might be a suitable location, that there may be other locations that are more appropriate in the community. However, those are my reservations about the motion, and they do center around location. I do agree with Juliana a little bit that it is a bit of a two-parter. We're trying to agree with the campus of care model, which is enriched wraparound social services provided to a residence of supportive care. I think I got that. And that the identification of Hardyview Lodge as a suitable location. And I think that maybe we need to really start to get a better grip understanding of what the campus of care is. So those are my reservations about the motion as is, Chair. Thank you.
Could I just get some clarity for a second? I can't recall now, did this table support the idea of Hardyview being used as a shelter?
Yes, I believe they did.
Okay.
Last week.
Yes, if I can clarify, we carried a motion at the meeting on August the 28th before the mayor's task force went back to council, where we endorsed the Hardyview location.
As an extreme weather shelter.
As an extreme weather shelter, yes. Okay, any further debate? Yes, Ann?
Okay, sorry. So I think, okay, this is my concern. You're dealing with the community. Now, those of us that lived close to the Greyhound shelter once Biffus took it over from the disasters that had happened prior, were proven that they could do the job and do it well. What you have now is you have a whole new group that are sitting outside of the old Hardyview, and they have all the same concerns and fears that we all had. And I love the concept of the campus of care. I do think it's the way we should be heading, the direction we should be taking. I don't want to scare everybody off. The thing that I do like about the Hardy View as a location is its proximity to the hospital, number one. Number two, I think that it's the right size initially. If this works out and becomes as great as I think it could become, then yeah, we might be looking for another place somewhere else. But right now, that does seem to be, you know, usable. So how do we move forward? Like if we put out something right now saying, oh, campus of care, and this is what's going to happen, and it's going to be at Hardy View, you're going to have the whole community up in arms. They're already kind of twitchy. So how do we go about doing this? And maybe the whole thing is that, yes, we're working on a campus of care, but there is going to be an extreme cold weather shelter at Hardy View, and let the community judge how well BIFAS can pull this off, which I know they can do.
Ian Taylor, is that a hand up?
No.
Okay. Anyone else? Christine Thompson?
Can't be sitting, standing there.
And Bev McCormick had her hand up before me, so.
Oh,
maybe
Bev, you know, I'm
recognize her
not
too.
seeing your electronic hand. I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to say, I mean, if you wanted to word it, and still leave that in there, you could say as an example of a possible location. I hear what Anne's saying about people just, even if there's any whiff of a location, might get freaked out. To me, I mean, I really do support the concept, and I think it can be useful for envisioning purposes to say, and look, there is a place around here that, you know, that could possibly work for something like that. I mean, we're so far away at this point from having that, you know, to me, an example of a location is just, you know, just makes people see that it could be possible. But I also see the point that it can, you know, the people that live in the neighborhood can just get automatically freaked out by just even seeing that, just that location listed. I would like to leave it if you know, and amend it to say an example of a location. But I mean, even that's maybe too much for people. I don't know, this town is crazy that way. But I understand it certainly. But to me, you know, this is never going to go anywhere if somebody doesn't have a vision, because it's a big deal. I mean, it's a fantastic thing, but it's also a big long deal. And I think to have a vision is great. And if you can envision a place where, wow, that it could work in a place like that, not necessarily that place, but a place like that. So I would leave it in, but then, yeah, there's problems with that too. But anyways, that's my 2 cents worth.
Ann Palmer?
And I think we need to really keep in mind that the perception of the public is really, really important. So a soft glove rather than a hammer would go a long way.
Christine?
Yep, thank you. I'm wondering if we are, if we should perhaps, with the consent of the mover, withdraw that particular motion and put forward for discussion a resolution that says that the Grand Forks Social Services Advisory Group is in support of a campus of care model as presented by Boundary Family Services. Then we're not given a location. We're just saying we support this. You've got time then to go out to the public and sell it, as it were, and get the community support. Currently, that particular location is being considered for an extreme weather shelter. And I think that it could perhaps eventually morph into something further, but I'm just concerned that the one location is going to be wrapped up in a whole number of other issues, and perhaps just supporting the concept as presented, a determination of a location at a future date. Because what I'm hearing from Darren and Teresa is that this is not an overnight decision. This is going to take something like 2 years. And I don't know if that's possible. Perhaps they need a location to work towards. I don't know. I'd be interested in hearing from them.
Okay, I will address your consideration here, Christine. I think what we need to do, I'm going to advise the meeting that what I'd like to do is just call the question on the motion. If you feel that the motion needs tweaking at this point in time, I think we should just get the motion off the table. You cannot withdraw a motion just willy-nilly like that. So, you know, I'll call the question and you can vote on it. If you feel we need another motion that is more specific to either your support for exploring the idea of a campus of care further. And don't forget also, I'll advise you that we do have another item of business on the agenda here, which deals specifically with the shelter. So you will have an opportunity to commit to location specific to the plan at hand with the shelter. So with that said, what I would like to do is simply call the question on the motion, unless we have any more debate here with regard to the motion. Everyone can vote accordingly. Remember that if you don't feel comfortable with the motion, then you know, your vote says it all. So I'd like to call the question. Any further debate? I'm not seeing anyone. So we have the question moved that the GFSSAG support the Hardyview Lodge as a suitable location for the campus of care model as presented by BFSS. Chris, if we could shut the screen share off so I can count votes if I need to. It's always tough with Zoom, so we will do an all opposed. I believe we have a quorum of 10 people here. Anyone in opposition to the motion?
Well, I'm opposed, Chair.
Yeah, just to facilitate expediency. So I'm
Mr. Chair, if I may, Boundary Family will be abstaining from this vote, just in the interest of transparency, because we put forward the briefing notes. So
okay, I understand. Thank you.
So Chris, you voted on behalf of the city?
Pardon?
Did Chris Moslin vote on behalf of the city then?
I'm sorry, you're quite right.
Okay, you know what? I'm confusing matters.
I'm sorry, Chair. That's my mistake. Councillor Thompson has the vote.
Okay, sorry. Now, usually what we do is just recognize dissenting votes, but this one's a little confusing. So we'll do both, please. All in favor of the motion that stands? Okay, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 in favor. Everyone opposed to them? Oh, 4 in favor. Okay, everyone opposed? 1, 2,
3. I think I see 3, Chair.
3 opposed. Sorry, Anne, I see you shaking your head.
I'm going, I really don't feel comfortable with this because I think we're putting the horse before the cart, or behind the cart, or the cart before the horse. Anyhow, I don't want to scare the community off, and I'm worried that this is going to scare the community off because they're going to immediately think that they're going to have supportive housing sitting in their neighborhood without any understanding. So I have a hard time to decide which way to go because personally I support it. For the community, I'm not so sure that I do. So can I just sort of sit on the fence? Am I allowed to do that?
No. Oh.
Well, you know, preferably you won't, because you know there is an opportunity to put another motion on the table, but you can abstain.
Okay.
Beth, can I just make sure that my virtual hand gets counted? I opposed by my virtual hand.
Okay, and I appreciate that, Bevan. So were you in favor or against? Sorry.
Against.
Okay.
Against the motion as it's written.
Thank you. Okay, so again, everyone opposed?
Anne is
Okay, the
voting
motion
now,
is
Chair.
defeated.
I see 5 opposed if you count.
Yes. And we have FIS opting out. So anyway, that's the motion's defeated.
Chair,
Yes.
I don't know if it's appropriate, but I would just like to move the motion move that the Social Services Advisory Group support the Campus of Care model as presented by the Boundary Family Support Services.
Okay, there's a motion, seconder.
I'll second that. It's Bev.
Okay, Bev, second, Chris. So your motion's on the table?
Yeah, one second, Chair. I am trying to just. Yeah,
I know.
It is.
Take your time.
All I did, Chair, to the original motion, you know, is strike the words support the Hardyview Lodge as a suitable location, because I really do agree. We are putting the cart before the horse. Let's make sure we have a clear view of what Campus of Care model means first. Anyhow, Chair, that's my motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moslin. And we have a seconder, Bev McCormick. Any debate? Okay, I'm assuming that we've heard it all, so we'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, I am counting 1, 2, 3, and 4. And Bev, I'm assuming you have a hand up?
Yeah, virtually.
Okay, that's carried then. Thank you. All right. Any further discussion regarding the Campus of Care? Potential motions? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone. We're going to move on to the next order of business. Mr. Pratt, you wanted to start a discussion regarding Hardyview and the emergency cold weather shelter proposal.
So it's been brought to my attention that perhaps there's a little bit of traction that's been lost with City Council. So I just wanted to throw it out to any members of the table that we have a deadline for support. Even though this table did support Hardyview as a location for a cold weather shelter, the temporary use permit is being voted on next Tuesday. So if anybody at the table felt comfortable writing a quick letter of support and getting it into the city by Friday, it would be appreciated. Because I do feel that we are at risk right now with the current climate of not having the TUP approved. So, Councillor Thompson.
Christine Thompson.
Yes, and I agree with everything that Darren has said. I think I said earlier that I thought that either BC Housing or Boundary Family Services, I can't remember which, was going to have direct communication with the residents in the surrounding area to speak to any concerns that they may or may not have with regard to the extreme weather shelter being housed there. And if that hasn't happened, is it possible that it could happen between now and the special meeting of council?
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
So I think the fly in the ointment in this is when the provincial election was called, BC Housing was told to stand down. So the communications department for BC Housing has been told to hold. So when you all get home this evening, you will find that I've penned an op-ed piece for the Grand Forks Gazette. There's this kind of cart and horse analogy that I think Anne uses quite effectively from time to time, that it's really hard for us to do any kind of community engagement when the main principal funder is at a standstill in dealing with the city. So normally what happens is community engagement occurs after there's a TUP to discuss what the shelter will look like, how it goes. That's the usual kind of flow. Unfortunately, that hasn't been communicated because BC Housing's comms department is in freeze. They are not doing any communications with anybody until the final count is made and the election is called. So for me to go out and speak on behalf of BC Housing, that's pretty precarious because I don't have authority to speak on behalf of them.
No, I understand you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pratt. I have a question for you that affects the table. You're asking for letters of support. That said, they should be addressed to whom?
That would be to mayor and council of the city of Grand Forks.
Okay, thank you.
And then directly to the city.
Okay. Any discussion?
Emailed or? emailed to the city or?
Councillor Moslin, Councillor Thompson, there is an email portal for submission on the city site, is there not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the info.
info@grandforks.ca.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Has everyone got that? info@grandforks.ca. All right, so if anyone feels inclined to write a letters of support, I would say probably if you had your hand up at the vote on August 28th, you would want to consider it. That said, Mr. Pratt, anything else about Hardyview that you would like to share with anyone?
No, I think as everybody's aware, it all hinges on the TUP vote on Tuesday. Realistically, depending on how that vote goes, then that determines the direction moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Any last concerns from the table? Okay, Ann Palmer.
Just clarification. Are you looking for these letters to be written on behalf of the SAG committee or personally written?
Either or, Ann. So, don't forget, Citizens for a Better is kind of an odd one in this table because all of us represent other agencies. So we have the ability to kind of, those of us like Ali or Kathy or Ian to kind of do that whole letter on behalf of representatives. I think that if you have members of C4 that feel that we were admirable in our running of the shelter last year and trust us to do it again, we would definitely welcome that support.
You have actually been getting that support on social media. There've been a number of comments that I've read, and I put out a few of my own that you guys did a marvelous job, and it became a total non-issue within 2 weeks of you taking it over. So it is out there.
Okay, thank you. Unless there's any more comments, I think we can safely move to the last part of the meeting, which shouldn't take too long. We can wrap this up. Just excuse me for a minute here because I have to pull up my file. Okay. So we had a couple concerns brought forward, and so I've listed them as item 8 on the agenda as points of order. Now, I need to clarify something. I'm not sure that if everybody isn't familiar with procedure, that you understand what a point of order is. Generally, a point of order happens when there's a perception either by a member of the table or the chair that there has been, I'm really trying to be careful with my language here because I think these things happen sometimes quite innocently, but we have to look at them anyway, where there's been contradiction to our terms of reference. And our terms of reference guide what we do as a committee. I'll deal with things in the order that they appear on your agenda. The first concern that was brought forward was specifically with regard to our terms of reference and reporting out. Now, we did have an amendment to our terms of reference, I believe last November, with regard to reporting out. Mr. Moslin, are you prepared to put the terms of reference on screen?
Yeah, I am, Chair, but you know what? The ones I'm going to put on the screen are the one Mr. Pratt has given me. Okay, hang on.
Which are the most recent?
It doesn't have that. Hang on. But I will share if I can.
Okay.
1 second. Did it show up, Chair?
Okay, yeah, we're good. Now, we need to scroll to the paragraph specific to reporting out. As my memory serves me, we had an amendment last November to the reporting out. There it is. It kind of breaks the page there, but we'll have to live with it. Okay, minutes of the advisory group will be published on the City of Grand Forks website and the website of Boundary Family Services. These will be the minutes as amended and approved by the table. Now, there's not a lot relevant there because we don't have a Grand Forks City, or the Grand Forks City website was not willing to put the advisory group business there. We've since created this Facebook page, which we had a motion that addressed the terms of that at the last meeting. Boundary Family Services does not have it up on their website. However, we're still bound by minutes as amended and approved by the table. Therefore, what my ruling is with regard to this is that any information that is reported out, and remember that we do have a gallery that's public, and we do have Zoom recordings that are available to the public. But if we report out, we have to be careful here. And what I want to do is just kindly put out the notion that we need to proceed with an abundance of caution. The Hardyview proposal that went to City Council was the source of the problem here. And what happened was that there was quite a bit of reference in the debate to the campus of care. And I think what it did was it raised expectations that, there was a concrete plan of sorts on the table, and that, we actually had something. And I know I've been getting all kinds of questions, both from the general public and from other counselors with regard to what this campus of care is. Now, given that, I wanted to bring this up and advise the committee that we need to proceed with an abundance of care here. We had a good discussion today where we resolved to more or less give the campus of care model our blessing moving forward and to explore it further. Given that, we have to watch public perception here, because the public is now under the impression that this campus of care thing may be a reality at the Hardyview site. We've got a lot of people jumping to conclusions, including other city council members. And this thing has taken on bigger proportions than what is actually warranted or necessary. What we've got for certain on the table at City Council is an emergency cold weather shelter for a 1-season lease at the Hardyview site. And that's what the public should be looking at. So enough said on that. I would like to advise the table to be very cautious with putting promises out there about stuff that we haven't even discussed or endorsed. I think I've said enough. I think everybody should probably get it. Now, I want to comment that in this ruling, I've made a provision in between the lines that this all gets deferred back to the table. And what I'm going to do is move to item 3 under my points of order here. And that is that the terms of reference, and we don't need to bring this up, Chris.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
The terms of reference clearly require an annual review, and I think more and more so it becomes apparent that we do need to have a look at those. And so what I've said is that we need the annual review to commence at the committee's earliest possible convenience. I don't want to take the review to take priority over more important business, but it certainly is important. And so people need to think about it. We have terms of reference. The most recent copies were mailed to everybody. And so you should familiarize yourself with those, think about them, and we will review those. I want to go back to item 2 under points of order. And that's regarding the Facebook page. We had an additional thing happen there where there was an item on the Facebook page posted that was actually intellectual property owned by BC Housing. It was a PowerPoint presentation that was presented to City Council on August the 18th. We agreed, as per a motion on the table on, October 14th, that we would have a Facebook page with the intention of posting minutes, approved minutes, and a link to the Zoom platform for the recorded meetings. I'm going to rule that we keep it at that and that there's no additional material posted to the Facebook site. What ended up happening was the BC Housing document again gave people the impression that there was a supportive housing unit going in at Hardyview, and it created quite a storm. And I'd like to say that I know it was probably unintentional, and I know that it was probably meant as an educational piece, because there was a motion on the table at City Council regarding a referendum, and there was references to BC housing models there. But we need to be very careful moving forward, and so I would request that that particular item be removed from the Facebook page, and that as we move forward, that we just keep it to the minutes and the Zoom links. When we revisit the terms of reference, we may choose to expand on that. So that's my spiel here on points of order. Those are the rulings. Rulings are not debatable items. So I welcome any comments, but we're not going to go into a debate here. I see a couple hands. Ann Thompson, and, or sorry, Ann Palmer and Chris Thompson, sorry.
Thank you. In regards to the terms of reference, is there any way that we can get the role of this committee clarified? Like, I'd like to know, are we making binding recommendations? I'd like to know if we have any teeth. I got the feeling that we had absolutely no teeth when the mayor created his own task force and we ended up sitting around for 2 months doing nothing. So I'd like to know exactly what is our role, and how much impact does it have on anything that we're trying to get done?
Okay, thanks for the question. And you know what I'm going to say there is that we've instructed the committee to, at their earliest possible convenience, have a look at a review of the terms of reference. And
this time, though.
Sorry, what's happened?
Yeah, that's what we said. There you go.
Someone's not muted.
Ian, could you mute yourself, please?
They're calling to me.
We've got some interference here. Sorry. Sorry, Ann. So long story short, thanks for your comment. We've already ruled that we're going to review the terms of reference at the committee's earliest possible convenience. Given that, I think yours is a very good question, and I think it's something that would be appropriately dealt with at that actual review when it happens. And you know, anyone else too, the invitation is there. If you have questions or ideas about the terms of reference, the review would be the place where you bring those issues up and then they are discussed. So beyond that, any further commentary on the points of order, Christine?
Through you, I'm going to ask that the city do the committee do a review of the terms of reference at the next meeting on the 18th of November.
Are you putting, sorry, are you putting that forward as a motion, Christine?
No, I think as I'm going to be the chair of that meeting, I'm asking that the city review, or the committee review. I'm sorry, I've got someone banging at my front door here.
Sorry.
Zoom.
We're in a meeting, I'm sorry. Okay. Where was I? Okay, the other thing I was going to ask is that if you have questions with regard to that, if you could submit them prior to that review, it'll give both Councillor Mosman and I an opportunity to look into the concerns and report back.
Okay, everybody get that? What Councillor Thompson is asking, she is going to be the interim chair at the November 18th meeting. And what she is asking is if anyone has issues that they would like to bring up with regard to a review of the terms of reference, that those items be specifically forwarded to either her or Councillor Moslin in advance of the meeting for consideration. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to support you on that, Christine. Everyone, please bring those items forward in advance of the meeting. That way they can be included on the agenda as well. And we're just, you know, we've got a head start on it. So I concur, Christine. I think that's a good idea. Any other comments?
Just don't want to be spinning our wheels and having to go back again and again and again for clarification from Mayor and Council as to what their position is with respect to this advisory group.
Okay, and it's an annual review. So, you know, we're going to treat it as if we're not going to revisit this thing for another year, unless there is a request specific to the chair of this committee down the line with regard to something imminent about the terms of reference. So this is a one-shot deal, annual review, November, as part of the regular business at the November 18th meeting. Any other questions? Chris?
Okay, so just, that wasn't a motion. Basically, Christine advised that the terms of reference would be on the agenda for November 18th, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, Chair, I would like to make an apology at this point, Chair, about the Facebook. It's not a page; it's a Facebook group, and the insertion of the BC housing model PowerPoint thing there. Really, Chair, that was my fault. I was trying to see what documents would upload, how they would upload, and how, you know, how I could control the commenting of them. Chair, you didn't need to rule. You could have just, you know, tapped me in Messenger, and I'd complied, because the last thing I want to do is endanger the efficacy of this table. And to answer Anne's concerns, I think you're going to find, Anne, that it's only just starting, that this group does have traction, that it can get things done. I certainly hope so. Anyways, so Chair, I will certainly take that little PowerPoint off. Nonetheless, Chair, we do need to educate the public, you know, what is the campus of care, and how is it different or more than what BC Housing is offering us. I'm kind of looking forward in the next couple of weeks as the provincial government gets unstuck from election mode and is more forthcoming and more amendable to getting back into the wilds with its constituency. Anyhow, Jared, once again, I apologize. I'll remove the thing, remove the item, and let's go forward.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. And like I said, I've deferred this back to the committee through the review, and it may well be that as the committee examines the terms of reference down the line, that they might want to add a piece specific to educational purposes on that Facebook site or page or whatever we're going to call it. So, you know, I appreciate your efforts. You know, I've made an effort not to single you out on this, but just a cautionary note as we move forward. And like I say, the committee does have the ability to add to and amend the terms of reference. Looks like on November the 18th with Christine as chair. Ann Palmer?
I've got two questions. One, I had a request from somebody who wanted to know if they could sit in the gallery on the Zoom meetings. And I see a gallery, but it seems to be mostly made up of council members. So I'm wondering if anybody can get in on it or if you have to have an invite. That's the first question.
Okay, my understanding, and we have got nothing in the terms of reference specific to the gallery other than these are public meetings. We do have a gallery. And so with that said, I've already instructed Councillor Moslin with regard to invitations that written invitations to meetings only go out to bona fide committee members. However, if we've got interest from the public in attending the meeting as a spectator in the gallery, that's completely fine. And I would say that any committee member can invite someone. It's just not going to be part of the formal invitation process. That gets too cumbersome for the secretary, and so we don't want to do that. But if someone wants to invite someone, if you notify the chair and the secretary that you've invited someone or that you have someone of interest, then we will make provisions to get them the Zoom link and they can sit out there and listen in. Yeah.
All right, my second question was for Darren. With this sort of everything on halt because of the NDP's election, I know last time we spoke, you said that you would be really tight to get Hardy View up and running. I'm wondering if you can actually pull it off. So kind of concerned.
Again, and that's just the communications department that's has a cease order. All the other ops are mobile. So what it comes down to is that communications piece. So if the TUP goes through next week, then yeah, then acquisition does their thing, gets the contractor in. Realistically, in an ideal world, third week in November, probably closer to that first week in December. But again, once that TUP goes, if it is approved, then it becomes that piece of getting permission from BC Housing to do the community engagement that Councillor Thompson talked about.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any further commentary? All right, folks, we did pretty good here, 2:38. So yeah, that's nice and early. Thank you, Darren, Teresa, for your efforts with the briefing. I think everybody appreciated hearing about it. And as we move forward, it sounds like a pretty exciting proposition. The next regular meeting is November the 18th. Christine Thompson will be your interim chair. Please get agenda items into, if you could, Chris Moslin and Christine both. Make sure that you CC them or whatever it takes to get them both on your emails. Get agenda items into them. You know that the TOR review is already on the agenda. So that said, someone move to adjourn, please. We have Mr. Pratt and seconder. And okay, Ellie Dixon, thank you. That's it, folks. Have a great day. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you.
Thank you for running a good meeting, John.